join in, and then we'll get started.
Okay,
Sure.
sounds great.
We're live now.
Hey, everybody.
Woo.
All right.
Woo.
Woo. Had a few technical difficulties getting going. Happy to get this going with you all. We'll give it a few minutes for people to find the page, find the stream, promote it, share it, all that good stuff.
Nice.
And that also gives Kelly a moment to get in here. Hey, Praz. I'm seeing your messages, Praz, so I know this is working. This is great.
All right.
This is my first time being a StreamYard host, so forgive me for things. Usually we have somebody else kind of being the host, and I just join in. So, all right, we got people joining in. This is great.
Perfect.
I don't know if you want to share it to the Nuclei community, but it shows up as live on the My Standard page, so we should be good.
Yep. Yeah, someone's on it.
Awesome. All right, so we started about a couple minutes late. One of our speakers is still troubleshooting her way into the chat, so we will add her once she's in. We are live on YouTube, we are live on LinkedIn, and we are live on X. So the numbers will grow as we go. But I wanted to at least kick things off. This is being recorded as well, so we can share it afterwards with everyone who's coming. So to kick things off, this is the first installment episode of the One-on-One series. The whole idea here is that we've realized watching crypto, podcast series spaces that they're a little bit unorganized, a little bit fragmented, and a little reactive. I think a lot of them, you could probably join a space right now, many spaces where people are just saying, hey, Bitcoin's at this number. What have you seen in the market? What do we think is happening today? And people just kind of casually talk around what they think is happening. I think crypto needs a little bit more of like a serious discussion around topics that are important to us. And so we started this series to invite one founder who we have today, Matthias from Nuclei, one investor, Maurice, and one KOL influencer who's Kelly, who will be joining us as soon as she fixes her issues, to try to talk around one topic from everyone's perspectives. Because I think one of the issues that we see here is that everyone's lens is completely different. So, the investor might have the 10-year perspective, and the influencer might have the one-day perspective, and the founder might have the 5-year perspective. And so, when we're trying, we don't really think of people from the fact that they come from these specific lenses. We wanted this show to be an opportunity for you to hear from well-established, smart people who understand the space really well. What do they think around these topics? And they might have completely different perspectives. They might disagree. That's fine. That's kind of what we're hoping to get out of today, because at the end of the day, we're trying to help you hone in your investment thesis on how should I approach this marketplace? Bitcoin's up, Bitcoin's down. Is now a good time to get in? Is it too late, too early? And what I constantly hear is people don't know what the timing is. They try to time the bottom, doesn't work out for them. They try to time the top, it doesn't work out for them. So are we early? Are we late? And let's have a discussion around that. So thanks for joining us today. I'm Adam, co-founder, CEO of My Standard. We're a decentralized, user-owned data marketplace where people own, share, monetize their information. They get paid when opportunity knocks. And we're the first of its kind app that's available here in the US on Android and iOS. So if you're listening in, love to have you become a user on the My Standard app and start to own, share, monetize your information and find opportunities. So I'm just moderating today and asking our esteemed panel some questions. We're going to have a good conversation, and hopefully Kelly is able to troubleshoot our issues and join in as well. But to kick things off, I'd love you guys to introduce yourselves. And Matthias, feel free to go first.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the introduction, man. Super happy to be here. Hello, everyone. Hope everyone is having an amazing day. My name is Matthias de Vries, based in the Netherlands. But please call me Matt. Much easier for everyone. They see my random letters stitched together and see it as a name. It doesn't make much sense if you're not from the Netherlands. So Matt, founder and CEO of Nuclei, and in the industry since 2016. First as a community member, someone that also invested due to the generic interest, but also the fact that I had to do something with Web3 for a potential client. And I got super hooked immediately, and when in early 2018, the industry started to collapse a little bit under the weight of the ICO boom. I wanted to do something in this industry, try to do better, try to do something. And that's when I founded Nexera, and then a couple of years later, spinned off Nuclei from Nexera, and that's my focus today. I have a large background in software development in many different industries, technologies. Went into management at a very large company in the Netherlands for a while, but happy to be back as a founder of a startup in a very chaotic but very, very special industry.
Very, very chaotic.
And very special.
Very special. Sorry, I missed that part. Yes, very special as well. Maurice.
Yeah.
Yeah, hello everyone. This is Maurice from Hong Kong, and I'm from Asia. So I think like if you're listening from Asia, it's already midnight, but I'm still like as most of the crypto bros, we're still very awake as we just started like the US and the EU time zone. So a little bit background of myself. I work in crypto exchanges before, so I was the former chief investment officer at Gate.io. So what I do, I invest, incubate, and list projects in different jurisdictions from the world. And I departed, and I am now as an advisor for different projects, and also running around 4 funds right now. So it varies from private equity, private credit, to venture studios, and also like funds that focus on DAT. So yeah, so I've been like working in the industry for 5-6 years now. Been through 2 to 3 boom and boost, like the bear and the bull market. So yeah, so that's a little bit background about myself.
Awesome. Is it true what they say that the best opportunities are in the bear market?
Well, as an investor, I would say yes. It's always like when we joke or like a little bit like when the bear market arrives, it's time to go shopping, right? It's like where the VCs like kind of like a consensus that like we try to not invest too much during the bull market because everything is so like inflated or like super expensive from a point of view. But from a project point of view, like it's the best time to kind of like launch your projects or launch your tokens, like try to get right on the bull market. So I think it's a very different mindset, and I think as an incubator or accelerator, it's kind of like mixing both, right? You want to get in like at a lower price, but we want to launch a product at a very like a bull market. So sometimes like a market can be tricky. Like I think right now a lot of people try to read, are we at early bear or are we recovering from this like a few days? And so I think there's quite a lot of mixed signals right now in the market. Yeah.
All right, so then it kind of leads us into, I think, a pretty solid first question, which is when you just define it. When people say, "Are we early?" Like, how do you define early in context of like, hey, I'm trying to invest in crypto, or I have some dry powder. Am I early?
Yeah. I mean, like for me, it's still very early, like as in everything in crypto, like just look at the history, like Bitcoin is only like less than 2 decades, right? And we have the financial system for like, like the Great Depression is about 1930 something. So it's almost like 100 years. So the new technology to this like embracement of the original financial system is like, to me, it's still very new. We still see a lot of like very interesting merges between like the TradFi and crypto. To me, I think at one point, maybe like a decade later or 5 years later, we may reach some kind of sort of equilibrium. So we don't have the line anymore talking about like, oh, this is a crypto or this is a TradFi. We'll eventually maybe merge to like, okay, this is the web 3.0 or this is the financial system right now. Like just like from like people buying stock from using paper or brokers to now internet and apps. So I think it's just like a progress, but for me, like it's still very early stage, like for the whole mainstream to adopt the whole like crypto. But at some point, like if you broke it down into like, oh, people talk about NFT or metaverse, like, like some specific topic or vertical as an crypto investor. So sometimes we may say like, oh, we already like certain topics or certain vertical is no longer in a trend or is outdated. So it really depends on how you look at like the whole spectrum. But for me, I think we're still at a very early stage.
Okay. Matthias, same question to you. All right. So Maurice, very early. There's still a lot of adoption left. Are we in the same camp here as a founder in the space? What is your perspective on early, how to define what early means?
I mean, we are both very early and we are also kind of late. It depends on what kind of point of view you're having and what context and what you're hoping to find here. I think as an industry as a whole, we're still maturing. If we look at a lot of projects out there that are struggling for adoption, because a lot of Web3 companies, they tend to build a solution for a problem that doesn't exist yet, right?
Yeah.
And that is very common in this industry. And the maturity because of that is there's a big lack of maturity because of that, and that leads to projects struggling when the market isn't good enough, so that they cannot just blindly follow the hype and stuff like that. So in that sense, we are very early, but also we run in cycles. So we have the industry as a whole from beginning to where we are right now, but we also have the fact that we are going in different cycles, and in every cycle you have to ask yourself: are we early? Are we late? And honestly, I would say normally at this point of the cycle, and are there actually cycles as there were before? That's also a very good question. I don't know the answer because, frankly, I think how the year went so far. Well, the year is almost over, but no one could predict that this year would have looked like this. Everyone expected something completely different. It ended up completely the opposite. And every time when I think the market is going to behave in a certain way, it absolutely does the opposite. And it's, well, I think a lot of people will agree with me that's been very annoying. And normally I would say we're very early in this cycle because everything is very, very low. But who knows? Who has the answers right now? And if we look at the bigger picture, if you're a swing trader, I absolutely do not know if you're early or late right now. If you are a believer of decentralization, especially for the further future, like in the next 10 years, 15 years, we are absolutely very early. We are so far from a matured industry where we're looking for real utility, real problems to solve, real adoption, and in an industry that's heavily dependent on each other still right now. Because look at DeFi, for example. If DeFi is doing great, it's essentially a network of projects, of inventions, innovations that need each other in order to work together, because there is no or very little real world connection. So it's, a lot of things that are deployed on Ethereum that are a layer on top of Uniswap or a layer on top of Aave or, something like that. And it has nothing to do with robotics or automotive or, helping people get jobs and stuff like that. That does sound very negative. I don't mean it like that. But it does show that the real world impact of decentralized technologies, of Web3, still needs to happen.
All right. So first off, before I answer the next question, which will lead right from what you guys just said, I want to introduce a lot of people joined since we did introductions here. So just so you're tuning in right now, we're doing the 111 podcast. This is going to be the first of many of these where we talk around one concept with one founder, one investor, and one influencer. We're missing the influencer today. That is not me. She is hopefully going to be able to join in on the conversation as we go. But in the meantime, we're talking to Maurice and Matthias, Matt, and then we're going to continue the discussion around are we early or are we late? I'm Adam Zek, CEO of My Standard, just kind of hosting the panel today. And my next question for you, both based off of what you said, So we both kind of defined early. You both believe we're early, not too shocking considering where we are in the space. If we thought we were late, we might not even be on the show today. But at what point are we not early anymore? Like, what's the signs? What are the things you're looking for, or you'll see that will be like, hey, maybe we're not so early anymore. Maybe that's what's going to shift your perspective. And Matthias, you could keep going.
There is one thing that comes to mind that I think we don't talk about enough is regulations, especially in Europe right now with MiCAR. The US with the SEC, it's changing right now, so it's hard for me to tell, but that is an indicator that things have been getting serious, right? But it's a starting point. It's not an end point where we would say we're late right now. If we would say, what are the indicators like we are really late, is the fact that we don't have to mention anymore. We don't have to set us apart as a vertical. Web3 isn't necessarily a vertical. It's a technology that helps, a lot of different verticals. And Marie said earlier, the parallels between Web3 and the traditional financial industry, and I want to make it much bigger because there are a lot of parallels between Web3 and the insurance industry, essentially, in the broadest sense. Because if we really, boil down to the essence of Web3, of blockchain technologies, and take out the financial component, the speculation and the hype and stuff like that, is an insurance layer. It's to avoid something that avoids disputes. It shows that if something happens, you can trace it back to the origin of the issue, of the error, whatever. So in that sense, it's always kind of a purpose of ensuring that something goes right. So I think that's really important if we can use the technology for the right purposes, and we don't have to sell the fact that blockchain is a necessary solution, but it's just like a technology that's being used because it makes sense. We don't have to, naturally talk about it. We don't have to say decentralized and stuff like that, because it's just like, it's naturally the best way to do something for a certain issue, for a certain use case. And people that are using it don't necessarily have the awareness that they are using a blockchain technology or a decentralized technology. That's when we have the real indicators that we are, past that. Really, we are still really early stage.
I like that you said if you take our space and you take out all the fun things, it becomes insurance. I feel.
I did that. There is probably also some listeners here that said that insurance is fun.
I agree. I think at one point I said when I could pitch my standard and not have to mention anything about decentralization Web3, and that's just kind of assumed that that's how it's built, as opposed to me having to explain it. That would be an like an indicator to me that, like, hey, we've made a shift, and we're obviously very far from that. Maurice, what is your perspective on, like, what are some of the things you're seeing? Like, hey, at what point are we not so early anymore?
Yeah. I think, like, with the progressions, even though I just mentioned it's like we're less than 2 decades, but obviously there's like certain evolution throughout like the whole 10 or 15 years when Bitcoin is born, then Ethereum, then ICO, then the rise of the central exchange, and obviously the DEX and then perp DEX. But obviously, I think like certain market, let's say the central exchange landscape, because that's where I start my crypto journey. I think it's like it's pretty. I would say it's quite saturated. Like you see, like it's a very red ocean. I would just use like a red ocean to say, like, hey, like to your new entrepreneur, like, hey, if you want to start up like a new global central exchange, maybe you have to think twice to see if that is like you have enough resources and regulatory environment and yada yada, like all the other like relevant resources to kickstart somewhere that already been so fully occupied, or like the red competitions right now in industry. And certain things, like I think we did some nice experiment, like say well, maybe controversial, like some of the where I remember when I heard of NFTs like 2017 when CryptoKitties like was was like in the trend, and then NFTs booming in 2021, and then it's kind of like we're still like look some of the, I would say, blockchain technologies or blockchain project or business idea are still experimenting to find a sustainable way of the business itself. So some of them is like maybe they already tried the experiments and still finding a way. Some of them are very competitive, like the central exchange, but there's still like something that's not too late. Like look at the perp desk right now. Is I think it's like 2025 definitely a year of perp desk, and like a lot of new like ideas like RDB perp desk and RDB platform, and I think it's booming. So some of the ideas I won't say it's too late, but it has been experimented in the market, and some of them work, some of them doesn't, and some of them are very competitive already in the space. Let's say the central exchange landscape. So I don't think like anyone, even with like a lot of resources or capital, can easily penetrate into like setting up new like a dominant central exchange right now. So I think certain business model is already a little bit late in the market because with the progression of development of the crypto industry as it started. Like it's very different if you do like a central exchange 10 years ago with only maybe 5 or 3 top exchange. Now you have like the top 10, which is very sophisticated with their own branding, own like listing strategies and their own trademark, I would put it this way. And obviously with the geographical legislation and regulation catch up right now, so certain area is not like you can just penetrate easily with capital. You need like a local team or local like government support in certain areas. So I think that will be certain area of the business model is already late to new entrepreneur, but there's still like a lot of new rooms, I think, for the industry right now. Yeah, that's the beauty of it.
Can we just do that real quick? Like, what are like some parts of the Web3 infrastructure space or use cases that are late? Give me like 3 that you say like, hey, this is pretty mature. I don't see a lot of room in this. It's crowded or very evolved. And what are some that are on the other end of the spectrum?
Maybe like just very simply the exchange infrastructure and the layer 1's infrastructure, like it's very crowded. Obviously, I heard like some very wise VC like investors said like layer 1 is like highway. You have too many highways and too little car. Like you just got like too many highways right now, and you don't have too much dApps and users on too many highways. So I think that extent as well. And obviously some of the other service add value like wallets and custodian, I think we have plenty of them right now in the market, which is a good thing that I think is like, you have a lot of options on selecting service provider or vendors. But at the same time, if you're a new entrepreneur or like if I'm an investor, right, from a point of view, like is that the best like field that like entrepreneurs should get in and better with the red ocean? So I think like as I mentioned, the exchange, the layer 1, and probably the custodian. But obviously there's like I'm always like there to hope that's like a project to prove me wrong, right? Like if there's like certain technical like breakthrough or certain new things that can like they can still make it a way out in industry like category that I think is, I won't say too late, it's just like red ocean. Maybe they have new technology that can break it through, and wow, that's something new that is like people never expect. Yeah.
And so what would you say is the early side of that? Like what are some of the areas in Web3 which are early and underdiscovered, underutilized, and if the infrastructure side is the late side?
You asking me or Matt?
No, I said Matt. Yeah, I was going to throw it to Matt to say, hey, what do you think on the early side of the argument?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, I will be very biased. I don't think I would be able to name 3 because if we would say like these kind of industries are, we will be very early. It means that it will be very clear that these are really amazing opportunities right now, and I don't think we have that clarity right now because these would be the next catalyst, to be honest, and that would cause. If we have that clarity on these kind of industries, we would have a new catalyst, new out season. I really believe that. So it will be very hard to point them out right now. But I'm a little bit biased. I would say something around data and AI because I think we had an AI cycle in Web3. So I think every listener would say right now, I'm talking bullshit when I mention AI, because we had the cycle. Nothing special happened. Like, what am I talking about? And it's exactly that. Nothing special happened. And AI is an amazing industry, a lot of innovation going on. The future, when it comes to AI, generative AI, but also any other type of AI, is extremely fascinating. And the next 10 years would look so different from now, with or without Web3. And I still think that there is a lot that we can do with Web3 in combination with AI. And because of all the quick projects that were founded during this AI hype cycle that didn't really do anything special, we still miss that kind of innovation in the Web3 industry that we still really, really need also for AI. And we try to contribute to that from Nucline's perspective, of course. But I still think we miss a couple of very serious players that join together, could potentially be a new catalyst for an actual useful real world use case impact kind of thing. It could be an actual catalyst for a new alt season, specifically for AI, because the last one, I mean, let's be honest, that there was a lot of not good things in that.
Yeah, a lot of hype and not a lot of solutions, not a lot of products.
A lot of GPT wrappers that don't add any value.
Yeah. Everyone became a founder for like a month.
Yeah, exactly. We can do better than that for sure.
So I'm wholly with you on data and AI, obviously. We're in the data space and also looking to do some things in the AI space. So with you there, what are some things outside of data and AI that you might think, hey, this is an underutilized, undiscovered, there's some room for growth here, types of like, early places in Web3?
Science, like life science, biology, stuff like that. So actual research, academics, but where Web3 would not be the topic of research, but would benefit researchers. So there are a couple of use cases that we're looking into right now with regards to heart failure, stuff like that, that actually, are meant to save lives. And there are a couple of areas where Web3 could potentially help.
I see. So it's like it all comes down to product and utility kind of taking center stage, like the usefulness of the technology, not infrastructure, like actual people, the technology touching people's hands that are not speculating on tokens and trading things today.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I would love to see an industry where, founders would work on things that are actually needed, that will actually benefit humankind, would benefit, real world stuff. And that we're less, discussing about what KOLs are needed, how many people are speaking about you on Twitter, but that the numbers are coming from actual adoption, actual utility, stuff like that. But yeah, it's a hard shift.
And if it's no surprise, like a lot of people who are listening probably have seen what I write and how I talk and what I talk about, so it's no surprising why Matt and I are friends, because we are like-minded of where we want this industry to go. Maurice, what are some other early kind of pieces of the Web3 stack that outside of Matt mentioned life science, data, AI? Are there other places that people could maybe take a little closer look at?
I think right now, like the trend is quite focusing on the real world assets, like the RWA. I think that's quite interesting to see, like how two sides merge. But obviously, there's quite a lot of obstacles right now, like including like liquidity issues and regulations. But I think it's something that is still quite underestimated. If let's say like one of those new startups are trying to solve this like problem. So yeah, I think this is also something that a lot of investors are quite interested in looking to see any startups can solve this creatively. So I think this is one of the things that people should pay more attention in. Yeah.
I agree.
Very good point. I agree.
All right, guys, we're all bulls. I think we're early mostly, but let's go with the other side of the token. There's a lot of people who are listening and going, no way, we're late. Bitcoin's already hit 100 and what is it, 30,000? This is definitely take that side of the argument, Maurice. Like say, like here's why we might be very late, and maybe you should look elsewhere for your capital. Like if you're
Okay. It's very against. Yeah, I mean, like I'm trying to think because it's really not the way that I think.
I know.
I'll put it. Yeah, I'm gonna put it this way. Like, maybe. Well, it's also relevant. It's like we no longer see the 50x or 30x or like not to, like 100x is like long time ago. I mean, right now when I see projects, if they like do a 5x or even like a 3x, I'm so happy that I will pop champagne for the listing. Yeah. So I think like one of the arguments like that like if people are looking for like a 20 or 30x, maybe it's better for them to like I don't know any other assets can give them such return except gambling like such high risk high return. But obviously there's like a trend of too many tokens and in the flushing the market, and the ROI is like relevantly is lower. You can see a lot of like VC has been like making a loss because like with the vesting schedule like from 3 months to like 9 months or even like 12 months, then the projects already like depreciate from the investment price. So I guess like that's one of the other counterpart argument that like you should look at the capital elsewhere, and that's what happens through some certain VCs. They allocate. I mean, like they won't. I should put it this way: they allocate outside primary, but go to secondary. It's still within the industry, but I would say like some certain like high risk, high return investor moving away from primary investment. But it's just like I won't say it's like something against my mind, but it's just like an observation that I can see like in a recent launch. I think the most is like a 5 or 10 at most, but a very like relatively smaller market cap. And you can see like the decline of the valuation or the FTV vapors quite quickly, within like 1 to 2 months or like even less than that, like after the launch. So that's quite multiple factors affecting it, but it's no longer we could do like an ICO back in 2021, like the DeFi summer, and like if early investor get like a 50x or like a 80x or even like a 120x. Like I think the days are no longer coming back, as people are expecting, when's Alcon season is coming back. I think that's like a more realistic or more mature investor or retail players after like we've been in the market for quite some time already, like been through the bamboo, and they're more rationale in terms of the investment. So I think that's changed as well. And also maybe a kind of argument that's like, hey, the ICO time or the good time for entrepreneur to easily make it 100x is gone.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to add on to that a little bit.
Please
there are
do.
a couple of points which I agree with, and a couple of things that I think are a little bit more nuanced, in the sense that if we look at the current market, for example, I completely agree. Right now, betting on a 20, 30, 100x that's a tough bet. Don't see that happening with the current liquidity, current volumes everywhere. That's just not the state of the market right now. And yes, we have a massive dilution because of all the new tokens, all the new projects that were created in the last couple of years. But the current market is a very good opportunity to get rid of those access products, access projects, access tokens. Meaning that, if we go through this full capitulation phase where all these tokens are washing out because, people forget about them, the founders are not working anymore, they are bankrupt, stuff like that, you would have an actual healthier market where the dilution is less, and you would be able to gear up to this 30, 50, 100x kind of opportunities again. I do agree actually with the fact that a full alt season as we had them in DeFi summer and the ICO boom are going to be very unlikely, but I think we would have rotation in different verticals. So rotation in layer ones, so rotation in RWAs, rotation in AI, and that's fine. I think that's a healthy way for the industry to mature, because we wouldn't be completely dependent on a single cycle anymore and a single, bull peak for the entire industry. But we could rotate money from, vertical to vertical, and maybe even, we would weed out even more projects that don't do anything, useful, but still raise a lot of money, if we would not have a full alt season anymore, but that money would actually flow to builders that actually do something great, which, let's be honest, are a very small percentage of the entire industry. That would be a good thing, right? But those would be the ones that would have the 20, 30, 50x kind of opportunities. At least, that's would be a very healthy development.
Yeah, I mean, we were all around in 2021 and earlier. It was kind of like you could just throw money at anything and it went up. And I think to Maurice's point, that day is probably gone. But to your point, there's still a lot of projects out there which have that potential of being life-changing for people. They just have to do a little digging, understand the team, understand the research, and maybe spend some time on the project. They can't just be like, hey, I finally found something that looks real under 10 million market cap. Let me just buy it before it's not there anymore. Because that's kind of how it was in this kind of silly phases we were in early on. Yeah. That being said, you still gave a bull case, Matt. I want to hear your bear case, like your most like, hey, this is why you're late and you probably should look elsewhere point of view. There's got to be something in there which makes you feel like, maybe this isn't the place for you. And I think it's, just to give our viewers an honest, like kind of rounded perspective on things. As a founder in the space, every now and then do you feel like, hey, maybe we're a little late, or maybe this industry is a little late?
No, it's a fair question. Look, I'm a glass half full guy. I'm always optimistic. I'm always happy.
I love it.
But in reality, what did definitely have impact on our industry, and I also said that earlier, actually, where you could say we are kind of late is, again, regulations. And yes, it's like the first step, and it's towards a more mature industry, but it did do a number on things. It's harder to launch projects, harder to raise funds, especially in regulated regions. It's harder to have a launch pad. It's harder for KOLs to maneuver and have impact to a project. It's harder for exchanges to operate. A lot of good exchanges, at least in the Netherlands, left the country, like Binance, KuCoin, and Gate, and a lot of volume disappeared. And that is also a problem for people, because they have to accept lesser exchanges that are maybe less careful with their funds, and who knows what will happen if they collapse, or what they actually do with your money, like with FTX. That's a little bit worrying. That's where we are right now. The US, from my understanding, is looking at ways to loosening regulations, be a little bit more realistic towards the industry as opposed to where they were a couple of years ago. I think that's a good development. I think the EU, the European Union, takes a little bit less realistic approach at the moment, which is more damaging to the industry. But to be fair, we were there with GDPR. There were a lot of unrealistic implementations of the GDPR, which evolved into having a more mature regulatory framework, which was more realistic and logical to exist in and to respect. And my hope is the same will happen to MiCA, but we need some time to get there.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I think there's like that evolution of like, I guess if you were in this space in like I don't know, making this up, but probably 2013 or so, you probably didn't have to pay taxes on things because they didn't even know how to do that, right? And so then taxes came in. That was maybe the first sign of the apocalypse that maybe we're late. And then after taxes.
Look, for example, in 2018, I opened a business account for Nexera at a major bank in the Netherlands, and it was like, oh, it's something with cryptocurrencies and blockchain. How fun, and it was like, here you have your bank pass, here is your login, and go make some money. And then just I don't know, even 2 years later, opening another business account, it's suddenly like alarm bells go off. Something with blockchain. no, wait, we cannot give you an account. You have to go through the diligence process. And, it's like this.
That's true.
So a lot of things changed like that already.
We got rejected by 2 banks when we opened the MyID, my standard account, before we found one that just didn't ask the questions that needed. And then when they found out we were already good, and they didn't do anything about it. But yeah, it was not easy to find a bank.
Exactly.
And this was in 2021. So yeah, the things change quick. So for Maurice, we have saturation, like the gains aren't what they used to be, kind of angle on why we might be late. Matt, you were saying that regulation is the reason why I might be late. I see both of those arguments. I want to pose one more to you guys, that we are not branching out to the audiences necessary in order to grow the space. I think a lot of us are just talking to each other. Matt, you mentioned that we're the rotation is healthy for the industry. I like to argue that rotation is actually unhealthy to the industry, because we're just kind of fighting each other instead of growing the pie. We're just eating more of the crumbs or fighting over the crumbs. And what are some ways that we could, if you guys agree with that, that we're not doing a good job growing the pie, let's talk a little bit about how do we get that done? I think there's 500 million people globally who buy crypto. It's nothing. I mean, it's peanuts, but it hasn't been changing, and it didn't change much over this last cycle. It changed a little bit. It went up a little bit, but it didn't go to, we don't even have 1 billion people buying crypto today or using crypto.
But there are different reasons to buy crypto. And I think that's also very important to note, is that people in Venezuela, they buy crypto in order to pay their groceries, right?
Awesome.
They don't buy crypto because it's a speculative asset and it might change their retirement plan or whatever. It's just because it's unrealistic to pay by cash, right? And if we look at, I try to keep it short so Maurice can answer maybe longer, but when I think about the what you say about rotation and growing the pie, as founders, we have to be more realistic. We have to build things that are actually needed. They should ideally be needed by traditional companies to solve real world problems. And our focus right now is completely doing business development in Web2. I think it's very similar to what you guys are doing, and I think that's the way. And if we want to make the pie bigger, we have to go look for the outside pie.
We have to find more pies.
Yeah,
more pies.
But and let's also be frank. There's not a lot of money in Web3 right now. If we're trying to find clients that are a Web3 project, they don't have money right now. Yeah.
Maurice, what are your thoughts on the pie?
I think I have a feel like different thinking about the pie. So I would just define, let's say, crypto project first. So I think as a CIO, and I do listing before and advise projects, so I see sometimes there some, as mentioned, is that the market really needs that many new projects, or a very similar approach towards the same topics. And obviously there's different motivation for founders or team to try to make a tokens and try to launch it. So that's one thing about crypto projects, as I think as it's kind of coherent to my just now what I said, too many tokens, so that's why the X is no longer there, and altcoins. So that's one thing about crypto projects. The second is the number of users, like you mentioned earlier, 500 mil. So I remember very interesting. I went to Japan for one of the business trips. So they actually try to implant that people are using blockchain technology on the apps that they don't even know they're using it. So I think that's a very interesting way to actually grow. I mean, if you look at a few things, right? People even notice that they're using blockchain, but they actually embed it in their apps, and all that is on blockchains. But people that doesn't even know, because they're so seamlessly do it so perfectly under the product. So people actually, I think it's more people that are using blockchain technology, but they're not holding any coins. So I think that's the pie is growing bigger, but it's just not as in a crypto token project that people just hold the tokens, right? So I think that's a few things may overlap in terms of viewing this, but I think it's a good thing that let's say a very high technology advanced places like in Japan is doing that, and that's like what they want to design the product. They said like we just want to embed the blockchain so people can enjoy or leverage the easiness of using it without even learning it. So I remember that's like a very important, like kind of like a mind that I got. Okay, interesting, because they told me like the best product doesn't need a token, or the best token doesn't need a product. And I was like, okay, interesting. Like that's a very interesting point of view. So I think like the pie is still growing. You can see a lot of like company trying to not really exactly enterprise solution, but kind of try to put blockchain into some use case without telling the users. So I believe in the long run, the pie will still grow anyway because of, this kind of like, I won't say mass adoptions and, the slow adoption of the blockchain. So that's the first thing. And I think second thing is like, are we targeting like everyone in the world should use or buy the coin? Obviously, yes, there's like supposedly yes, but then you try to flip, like if blockchain is so easily available that people don't even feel like they're using blockchain, that's maybe like they don't even need a coin, right? They just need an app or like a certain tokens that can easily paid or become like mass adoption. So I think that's another thing. And the last thing is like, I think founders maybe like apart from, obviously, I think I also mentioned that in various like conferences as well, like it's good to have a tokens, but is that necessary like all the time that like product needs a tokens? And I think that's also like something that a good way to think about it. So if a product that is so many people are using and using blockchain technology as well, so I think that may be something that is good to expand. I remember one of the projects that I advised from another mentorship, like they're trying to solve like the like a wallet in Africa, and because like 1/3 of the 2/3 of the mobile phone is actually not a smartphone. And I'm very curious, like, how do you make a wallet if it's like just a Nokia that I used when I was like younger, right? And they have all these kiosks and all that still have embedded. So what people are doing is like, it's basically fintech, right? So they go to the kiosk, they pay like in cash, or they try to buy stables, and then they upload to a database that with the numbers. So I think this is something that actually they don't own any coins, but the adoption actually is mass. So I think there's like quite a few cases that I can see. There's like real use case or according to the trend. And the last, I remember I was in Korea last week, and some news coming up, like some massive M&A. I think I better not to mention the names here, but you can see like online, like so such integration between the giant of Web2 and the giant of Web3 basically is trying to enable certain AI applications and the web and the crypto in one. So I think like a lot of like companies in Asia or like Africa, which I have more exposures to, trying to do like the massive adoption actually without the people even noticing they're using it. So I think that's very interesting, like kind of like growth. So maybe I'm just thinking like how to address that when you mentioned like how big is that pie is growing? Like are we just measuring like how many people are holding coins, or like how like the blockchain has already penetrated to the life without they knowing it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's two ways to think about that. It's like if we're getting more people using crypto rails and they don't even know it, it's just it's like the back end. I say on some of our pitches when I'm talking about my standard is like, I don't care what Microsoft Word was programmed in. I just want to like open it, type a document, save it, and move on. I don't need to know like what they and that's how I think of like our token. That's how I think of our infrastructure. It's like I don't talk about it to people. I don't lean into it, and that will grow the pie and users. And then if those people start to like get familiar with like, hey, I'm actually using decentralization and it's benefiting my life, I think it does make the barrier to entry for them to invest in the space or buy tokens a little lower, because it's a little like less scary. Like you can't say that crypto is a scam and also be using crypto and having it benefit your life at the same time. So kind of like it makes the space a little less scammy, and therefore people might start investing in it and grow the pie that way. Matt, do you have any thoughts to say on that type of topic?
I agree with a lot what has been said, and I do also believe that the pie is getting bigger. And I do agree really a lot with what you've said about adoption, in the sense that you're not necessarily aware of the fact that you're using any decentralized technologies, but somewhere down the line it is. And it's spot on, and that's actually what I think I said it also more or less at the beginning, is that's when that we're late, because then we are maturing, because it's not about the hype and the tokens and blockchain anymore. It's about actually solving a problem for someone that a lot of people need an app for or something, and want to use that app, and don't see that. That's very, very important. But we typically see that in Web 2, where we need to connect more with, and less within Web 3, when we just only do these things together, while these problems actually exist outside of Web 3. And again, that's saying that it sounds like Web 3 is its own vertical, but it really isn't. It's empowering what already exists. Yeah. And also about the pie, and seeing decentralized technologies or blockchain more or less as an insurance kind of layer, insurance technology. I would say insurance, if we look also at ourselves and insurance, a lot of people, they take insurance when something happened. Like, and a lot of insurances in certain regions are mandatory, but then you have additional insurance for traveling or whatever. Then when you do travel and you don't have insurance and something goes wrong and it costs you a lot of money, you're like, gee, next time I travel, I will make sure I have insurance. And I think, for blockchain technologies, it's kind of the same. We saw it with Shell. Shell got seriously interested in blockchain technology, because they ran into a problem and they couldn't fully trace back where a mineral was coming from when it was found in biological fuel, something like that. So they started to do serious research in blockchain technology, started to apply them, because something happened, cost them a lot of money or reputation, something along those lines. They wish they had it sooner. But as many things with insurance, you apply them later once you run into a problem. And we still have a lot of problems in many different industries to run into, where they will get that aha moment and be like, okay, now let's use blockchain.
I love it. I agree with all that. So we have 332 people or so tuning in live right now. It's just to kind of give people a level set. This is the 1-1-1 show. We're supposed to be talking around one topic with one person who's a founder, one person who's an investor, and one person who's like an influencer in the space, to kind of get a rounded perspective of where we are in Web3. Are we early or are we late? We are missing one person. I'm not the influencer. Kelly Ann Collins is supposed to be joining us. She had a technical issue. She is not able to join, but we will get her on a future show, because we are going to be trying to run these on a consistent basis to be determined on the next date, and we'll try to get her on one of the next ones. So we are missing the influencer perspective on are we early and are we late, and around these topics. That being said, I wanted to ask, pivot a little bit to what are some of the biggest misconceptions the mainstream talks about when in terms of crypto and Web3. It's on the news more than it's ever been, which is something we probably could have talked about when it's like the arc of adoption, right? We had taxes, then we had regulation, and now we have like the news talking about it. Where are we? What are some of the misconceptions and things that they talk about, though, that maybe aren't guiding us in the right direction?
I think a very funny example is when I was speaking to a very big enterprise in the Netherlands, and I believe I sent over a deck, or they saw our website, and they were like, hey, we're for sure interested in talking to you about the AI stuff, but we don't do anything with Bitcoin. So there's like this association, like when we speak about blockchain or decentralized technologies, it's Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is associated with value, right? When Bitcoin is in the news, it's about the price. It either went really down or it went really up. So it's really funny that people have this kind of connection to blockchain and decentralized technologies, that they say, okay, funny, let's speak about AI, but we don't do anything with Bitcoin, so let's not talk about that.
They're like, we don't do anything with Bitcoin either, so it's great. That's not
Exactly.
Maurice, what are your opinions on like
Yeah.
how the news talks about it? And
I
also,
think-
you might be able to give a perspective that's also like, what do they talk about in the Chinese markets and Asian markets?
Yeah, exactly.
to-
Yeah, I think like in Asia or like in as a whole, that's like quite diverse in terms of the news. Like sometimes they mention about like how people quickly get rich from the industry and how much money they lost from the industry as well. So it's kind of very bipolar. Like on the news, like sometimes like like a 19 years old kid like make a retirement in like 60 days or something like that. It's always like making a headline. It's more like an Asian culture about getting rich and getting like that is like I think it's quite rooted in a culture's perspective, but also at the same time like that's quite a lot of like a major like a fraud or major incident like a rug pull happening in Asia as well. So it's kind of like creating it's like very dangerously but yet a honey trap port, like kind of like a field about the crypto. It's like a dangerous jungle, but you can find gold. That's how always the media kind of like portrayed it. But I think like sometimes it's a little bit like exaggerated because of the news value, or you need to sell the newspaper, right? So sometimes I think people overly exaggerate the return and exaggerate the risk there, in terms of like investment or trying to get into the project. And I think that's like one of the I won't say misconception, but it's always the news, right? It's like it's
Does
kind
the
of like
news make you feel like it's late or early based off of like what you're watching out there?
Yeah. So so I think the news is still like I think Asia is slightly a little bit I should put like behind like sometimes on the market, like kind of the trend or the new things coming up. I think in the Western media is more broadcast heavily on in terms of the product or the technology and enablement, and I think Asian market more focused on the market performance, let's say the Bitcoin price and all that. So I think that's like when I look at the news on both Chinese or Asian side and the Western side, which I've read both of them. So I sometimes I see like I won't say distortion, but differentiation in terms of like the focus of it as well. So sometimes if I really want to look at hey what's really in the product side or like the technology side, I tends to read more like the Western medias. And if I look at more on the Asian side, it's very heavily on the market like performance. I think this one thing. And sometimes I think memes is like somehow is very interesting topic in the media as well. And in Asia, as you can imagine, memes or IPs is also like big thing in Asia. So sometimes I think they mix it up, like memes and IP. Like like they always think like an IP could become like memes. But memes become an IP eventually, but it's not the easy reverse, like memes become an IP, but IP couldn't be memes so easily. So I think like the media sometimes just get very confused about like, hey, let's just put this IP into like memes, and it's like it's not working. Like we tried a few times, like a few projects like come to me or like when I was like early at the gate. So I think sometimes media get confused about like why memes become so popular and with the IP as well. So I think it's like some sort of confusions happening before in the market. Yeah.
Have you ever seen the news talk around the space without putting a chart next to it?
Sometimes. I mean, like they normally just drop like, oh, Bitcoin has dropped like 30%. They normally just put numbers like 50% off, or like they sometimes like I think in Asian market like they tend to have a chart like of whatever things is talking about of whatever like trend and stuff and investment and pie chart, and that's always tag along with the chart. Yeah.
I think you said something really important there, Alan. This is the association with the industry. It's around speculation and money, and and understand that as an investor in the industry, that's what it's all about. But as a founder, for us, it's about solving problems. Adding a layer of additional security, enabling privacy, stuff like that. These are very important topics, but these are not in the news. These are not highlighted. These don't get attention because it's only about when the market is going bad or the market is going really well. And if you discuss crypto at the hairdresser, it's about money as well. Right.
And people make the joke around in the bull market, the Uber drivers asking for investment advice.
They literally do, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the thing that you guys kind of hit on here is that this is technology and it's an investment, and it's kind of intertwined with both. But the majority of the discussion is around the investment side of it, and not around the technology side of it. And maybe that's a sign that we're early, because the media still doesn't really understand what they're talking about. They just see it as another asset you can buy, sell, and trade, and not really they don't even talk about the usefulness of it. Maybe that's when we're late, is when the media starts talking around the utility of the technology and not just talking around.
Now we're pretty damn late already. If that's happening, it's that's not a good sign.
Yeah. As soon as you hear on NBC News them talking about the incentive structure for the node operators, out. So that
we should all consider to change our career to something else.
All right, last question for you guys. If you had to bet on one thing that's obvious in hindsight 5 years from now, it's oh, that's such an obvious thing that we are not paying attention to. You're so early to it. You should just give it a look, give it a focal point. You're listening today. There's 366 people kind of be what should I look at next? What, in your opinion, what are some places that they should really be staring at? That's you're definitely early here. We talked a little earlier around the industries, pieces of crypto that are a little late, or you might be immature today. What are some things 5 years from now you're hey, thank you, past self, for taking a look at this? Who wants to?
I can keep it really boring and say that what should be obvious now, but will be obvious in hindsight, is to keep an eye on projects that, from all the discussions that we had in this session, keep an eye on projects that actually try to make the pie bigger and are not relying only on other Web3 projects in order to become successful, that have actual clients that actually solve real world use cases and stuff like that. Because if and these things they rely a little bit less on hype and might take a little bit longer, but they are the one that contain actual value, can retain that value for a much longer period of time, and take and grow out that value into something way more serious that's also tangible, versus it's just based on what KOL said in the post.
I wish we had our KOL on the call to defend that, but
I'm not trying to shit talk KOLs, but it would be a good position. I'm not trying to
No. I'm
of course, because it's spreading awareness, right? Which is very important. But we do and it's we have associated with KOLs on the impact of price. But there's a lot more than what the KOL can do. It could also help you get users for your product. Well,
if she was on the call today, she would say the same thing. Is we're looking for projects that have sustainability, that are growing the pie. How many KOLs invested or promoted something that went away, rugged? You know what I mean? It's hard in that space too. It's obviously that's why we wanted her on the call today, Kelly today. Maurice, you're 5 years from now. For looking.
I'm just have a little throwback on 5 years ago when I just started, and it's a very different space. So I think 5 years later, it's very hard to predict, right? But I think I'm just flip it back, what happened, or projects still stay. It's funny, only Bitcoins and memes are still from 5 years ago, and 5 years later, it's Bitcoin and memes are still here. So maybe Bitcoin is still people know aware. Maybe 5 years later, we're talking about another 10x from where we are. So definitely Bitcoins. And I personally love memes so much, and I think memes is the very unique creation. That's always stayed. And the reason I like crypto so much is about obviously the creations and the innovations and the market dynamic, but obviously something unique that you never find any asset class that have like billion worth of dollars from emotions, emojis, hashtag, and community that form like it's like a snowball effect that grows so big. So I think memes is like, even though now we're a little bit like downtrend in the memes, like right now, like nobody's talking too much about it, but there's a lot of meme strategies such as like there's people buying orders using like a snipe bot that just buying whatever in the market, like with a 0.1 ETH or like even less than that, like for all the new coins, like maybe one of them hit 50x or 100x, and then voila, they earn all that. So I think like memes should people still pay attention, because it's one of the most, I won't say fundamental, but very core structure of the whole industry. It's always fun, and I think sometimes like big memes just happened, right? Like Pepe, and that's so like rare to have one. But like memes is still something I think people, what I believe that 5 years later, like maybe all this narrative will be gone, but then like memes and Bitcoin is still there. Because when I flow back, like when I first enter, I'm talking to some very new layer 2. For now, it's very OG chains, but now like at that time, it's still very new chains to the industry, and now it becomes like OG, so nobody is building on it anymore. So I just have that the flashback that is like, oh wow, 5 years passed by. That time they were like the popular rising, like always Ethereum killer, right? They always have that like the next Ethereum killer, whatever that is. And then I remember I was like looking at chart at Huobi when I first joined. It's like, what is this Doge? What is this like Shiba and all that? And when I look at the chart just now, it's like, what's this still there? 5 years later, exactly 5 years, from 2022 to 2025. It marks my 5 years journey in the industry. So what left, like from my experience, like Bitcoin and memes. So I still believe like 5 years later in 2030, like we still have Bitcoin and memes probably. And then whatever new chain maybe already changed already, like the one popular right now, or the market is very different. So I do think like people should, like look into like Bitcoin or maybe like Bitcoin ecosystem layer 2. Like there's a lot of things if you dig in, but ultimately I think that's something that people should definitely aware of. And memes, and try to use like it's very easy to launch a new memes with all this Pump Fund and Meme4, like all this new platform. And I think even people don't buy memes, they should give a try. Like, it's very easy, just connect the wallet 0.1 and so, and voila, you make your own memes. I think it's also good for people try to have fun in it as well. Like ultimately this industry, at least for me, is like fun, and the dynamic and all this, like creativity and the power of, like being innovation in the in terms of financial structures and the innovation. So to me, sometimes meme is like Hollywood mix Wall Street mix Vegas, right? It's like the three best US to mix together, and you have a great power of turning something into like $1 billion of meme from air, right? Basically. So yeah, that's about what I think people should aware of.
Love that we had a completely different answer on that, to be honest. Yeah. The founder in me, obviously I want use cases, and I want I'm basically aligned with everything. Like I want businesses, I want new revenues coming in, new users coming in, utility to take center stage and everything. And I don't really like memes. I pretty much have had a ratio on me. And then for you to come in and be like, hey, Bitcoin and memes were there. Bitcoin and memes it's good for our listeners. That's why we're here, is to have this sort of varied perspective of like the VC investor on the call is like Bitcoin and memes, and the builders are like utility. So we can both be right. I hope that
it's how funny, like a group of investors like us, like we used, like obviously we can't put a meme through like the VCIC, right? It's like impossible to pass it through, but like individually we just write chat into investing like memes. So it's just like, okay, we can't use the VC to invest any like memes, but we individually, we just as an angel, we invest in memes. So it's kind of interesting. Like it's very two different investment strategy. For memes, it's just like, I feel like, I won't say investment, it's just like, sometimes I just go casino, right? To have some fun and you write a little bit check onto like a promising new star memes, whatever that is. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, so I think we're at time. I mean, these are discussions, and obviously, you guys are really fun to talk to. So we could do these all day, and the numbers keep growing of people joining in. So if you just joined in, feel free to watch the recording. This is going to go up. You're going to get a really good perspective on late, early from various different standpoints. I'm just going to ask you guys for one word answer. Matt, late or early, or late or early?
Early.
Early. Maurice, are we late? Are we early?
Super early. Super early.
Word answer. And on the next show, we will have an influencer on the show. We have a few kind of in the docket for future runs, but I want to get Kelly back on here because we really wanted to hear her perspective on all these topics. So feel free to, once again, before we wind out, just follow everybody who's on this. The posts we've been putting up have everyone's tags. Follow Nuclei. I intimately know what they're doing with data, making data more accessible, making corporate data more accessible. And you guys are also doing on the AI front. Definitely take a look at what Nuclei is doing, especially if you're like a My Standard person, because we're all about utility, usefulness, growing the pie, finding customers. Like they're on the same camp. We're kind of like almost fighting the same problem from a different perspective and a different lens, which could be an entirely cool different discussion we could do at another time. And then follow Maurice at Meet Maurice. Very insightful, been in the industry for a long time. We've gotten to know Maurice really well over the last few months. And, it's always been really enjoyable interactions. Maybe we'll get you guys on in the future show. Maurice will get your camera working. Kelly will get her on the show. We'll just run it back with the same crew.
Yeah, we're just like, we can do it again. Yeah, we'll have fun to have a KOL point of view, which is very probably different from three of us.
I feel it would be interesting that if there is a market turnaround and everyone is bullish and there's way more liquidity, to do this again and see what the answers are.
Yeah,
everyone's like super hyped. It's like, what's the next coin that we should buy?
Let's run this topic back in like 9 months from now or something with the same crew, and we'll see if our change.
Hopefully, we can have the market turn back quicker than 9 months.
I mean, I did this. Maybe that's more like the end of the cycle. Who knows? But we'll see how it goes. I appreciate you all. I'm Adam Zek from My Standard. And thanks for joining us today. And once again, follow along with everyone on this call. As you can tell, everyone's really insightful. They know their stuff, and they won't lead you astray. Take care.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Love you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, guys, we're off.